And welcome to this episode of Season 6 of the Dr. Tech Show, where myself, Pauline Roche, and Sweyn Hunter, and often guests that we have today, talk about digital topics, including the world of online communications and digital inclusion, in a show which was the brainchild of digital storyteller, the late and much missed John Popham. So what we usually do at the beginning of the show is check on the weather. So Leigh, where are you, and how's the weather been this week where you are?
Oh, that's a good question. The weather has been raining permanently. Got another leak in part of our house, and
Oh no.
I am in north of Bedford.
Mm,
So a village called Lavenden, which is lovely. Just a couple of pubs, which is the most important thing, in a shop, and lots of fields to go walking in. But yeah, the weather's been pretty miserable. So myself and my husband have been talking about what our plans are for this year to go and get some sun, actually.
mm,
It's making me feel rather low, all this rain. But it is the time of year where, I hate January. So the weather is awful. It's just so I don't mind cold, but I do mind bleak, and it is
mm.
very bleak at the minute. So
Yeah. Okay, and Swain, do you want to tell us about your where you are and what the weather's been like there?
Yes, as usual, I'm in Kirkwall in Orkney, and I'm afraid to say, Lee, the weather is lovely. It's cold, it's bright. There's very light breeze. It's a perfect winter's day.
oh,
So we've had a bit of snow lately, but this is a really nice day, and the snow's all gone.
and
So
you're
that's
in
all.
Orkney, did you say?
Yes, I am.
Mm,
Oh, fabulous! How
mm.
lovely. Yeah, very nice.
And I'm in the west of Ireland today, and the weather. I've just come back from England yesterday, so it was raining there, and it was raining here when I got back as well.
Uh,
So it hasn't been brilliant, but it's hasn't rained all the time, so I'm grateful for that. And
oh,
it was lovely to come home and see the sea welcoming me
oh,
back. So that was really nice.
oh.
So, Lee, we've got a few dates and events to go through, and then we will introduce you as our very special guest today. Thanks for joining us. So Swain, do you want to go lead off with the dates, please?
Okay, I've got two dates today. The first of which is Warm Welcome Week, which runs from today, in fact,
Mm,
until Sunday. And they they want they actually this organization actually runs warm spaces all the year round, or coordinates warm welcome spaces all the year round. But this is the week that they focus on what they're doing. And yes, I'm afraid they do reference the infamous Blue Monday, which most people think is a bit of an invention. But anyway, it's a good thing to hang this on. And they encourage everyone to wear warm colours. Well, I forgot to do that this morning. And to get creative with pinks, oranges, reds, and purples to chase those blues away.
Oh,
And they want everyone to know about the joy, warmth, and magic of warm welcome spaces. So if you go to the website, you'll find a list, and you can put your postcode in, and you can find where the nearest warm welcome spaces are to you. So that's the
mm.
first one. And then the next date I have is International Day of Education, which happens on the 24th of January, and it's one of these United Nations days. And the text on this for this one says that the youth make up more than half the global population and are a powerful engine for innovation, for social change, and for sustainable development. Yet many face persistent barriers, even still, that hold them back from shaping the future that they want, from poverty and inequality to limited access to quality education and decent work. Because their lives and opportunities are directly shaped by education, young people must be active partners in reimagining how learning works. And as technology continues to transform the world, involving youth in co-creating modern, relevant, and inclusive education systems is essential to ensure that teaching and learning truly meet their aspirations. So that is the International Day of Education.
Brilliant. Thanks for those, Swain. And picking up a couple of events. The first one's on the 28th of January, 2:30 to 4:30 in London, and it's titled Information as Aid 2.0, Gaza AI and the Future of Crisis Communications. And this is a workshop to connect humanitarian, media communities, and digital rights activists to tackle crisis information challenges. The blurb says in Gaza, connectivity blackouts, platform takedowns, and the targeting of journalists have created one of the most challenging information environments we've seen in a crisis. At the same time, AI is rapidly changing how information is generated, suppressed, verified, and shared, including new risks but also new possibilities. So you're invited to join the CDAC Network and WACC Global for an in-person workshop at the Frontline Club in London on the 28th of January to explore the future of crisis communications and use Gaza as a live case study. And this event bridges communities that rarely have enough space to think together. Humanitarian practitioners, digital rights advocates, media development organizations, and journalists working on or around crisis context. So I think that will be of interest to some of our listeners. And the next one is called Staying Visible in ChatGPT, and this is happening in South Shields on the 29th of January, Thursday 29th from 9:30 to 12:30. And it's exploring why many organizations are seeing drops in website traffic despite strong SEO and content strategies in AI. The blurb says these days, AI-powered search tools and assistants are increasingly sitting between people and the information they're searching for. As a result, small businesses and charities are facing a growing challenge known as disintermediation. This process is when expert knowledge and services from organizations is cut out of the information exchange between users and search results, and it's changing how people seek advice, discover services, and decide who to trust. And it's a 3-hour workshop where they're exploring what disintermediation means in practice and why many organizations are seeing drops in website traffic. Not a failure of work, but a shift in the digital ecosystem where AI systems, platforms, and multiple algorithms now shape what is seen, summarized, or overlooked. And the session takes a deeper dive into AI engine optimization and generative optimization, looking beyond Google search to understand how visibility works across AI tools and search engines like ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, Perplexity, and more. And I think the last event I picked up before we talk to Leigh is on the 31st of January in Glasgow, 1 to 3 p.m. And it's called Young People and Fake News Online, a discussion. And this is for people aged 25 or under who are concerned about the impact of misinformation online. So the Ferret, Scotland's investigative journalism platform, is working in partnership with Young Scot and librarians body Phillips, and they want to hear from people who might want to attend this event. And they're hosting a roundtable event with young people in Scotland about how misinformation affects them. So very pleased to bring that to people's attention. So we go on to welcome our very special guest, Leigh Smyth, who's the CEO of ImpactMatch and the co-founder of ActionAble. Leigh is an accomplished social inclusion activist, strategist, and advisor who's an expert in enabling organizations to do well by doing good. Her award-winning achievements include launching the UK's first children's technology range and designing and leading a groundbreaking market model for a government programme that benefited 500,000 young people to gain access to information. As CEO of the Race Online 2012 campaign and then establishing the Go On UK charity, Leigh supported Baroness Lane Fox as CEO and spearheaded initiatives with sector leads to drive digital inclusion as a movement. Leigh's belief in the power of authenticity has not only transformed her own life, but also uplifted countless individuals. With determination, as the UK's first financial services responsible transformation director, Leigh has designed and led national initiatives and led the creation of impactful programmes, such as the Lloyds Banking Digital Skills Academy for Everyone, as well as leading the strategy and delivery of several impact measures, such as digital indexes, which still 10 years on underpin government strategy. Working with AbilityNet and her team, she also led the first FTSE to be accredited for accessibility on its digital platforms. Her global company, ImpactMatch, has advised prominent organizations, including the United Nations, leading to a universal financial inclusion commitment from the global banking sector and these left behind. Leigh has also volunteered her time as board member to Women in Banking and Finance, the Tech Talent Charter, and more recently, Leigh is now the co-founder of ActionAble 2025, which aims to end disability exclusion for millions of people, as well as a very proud trustee of AbilityNet charity. Leigh's journey exemplifies how one can challenge the status quo, write and deliver effective strategies with impact-led talent and partners, which transforms the life of millions and leaves an indelible mark on the world. Leigh, you're so very welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you very much for having me. Gosh, I've never really heard my bio read to me before. Goes on a little bit, doesn't it?
Well, you can be very proud of it. You've done so much. I hadn't realised how kind of crucial you were to the growth of digital inclusion in the UK. Well done.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, it is one of my favourite topics, digital inclusion and loves, I must say. And my thinking on it is constantly being updated and challenged in good ways and informed all the time, even though with different focuses in my career, I've come in and out of digital inclusion depending on what the need was. But yeah, it's the key enabler of our time. I think digital inclusion, it will enable everybody to have equal opportunities, which is what I'm all about, and I think that's where my passion for it stems from. So
Yeah,
having me.
great. Thanks very much again for joining us. How did you, what was your early kind of career around technology? What was your, guiding lights?
Yeah. I guess I'd always seen technology as a key enabler. I remember one of my first jobs leaving university. I mean, I was at university with I typed, wrote my dissertation.
Me
wasn't
too.
great. So it wasn't great. It wasn't great with all Tipex. And then when I started I started at one of my first jobs was working for Topshop head office, and that was in logistics. And really, it was just a case of me getting the first job that I could working in London, so be able to go and I've never even been to London before. I don't think, maybe brownies once,
Mm-hmm.
and all of a sudden I was offered this role, so that was fantastic. But it was very manual, and they started to automate things. I could see the transformative difference it had, not just on our productivity, but on the way that we felt motivated and happy as colleagues and our well-being. So that's when I started to get really interested in it. And I then was able to get a role working for Dixon Stores International, which had Currys, PC World, other major brands. And it was at that point that I again moved over via logistics. But I had an opportunity with the amazing Keith Jones when I was in my late 20s, early 30s, to be able to transfer my role into something that I wanted to see for good. And so I was in a technology company. I lost my father quite suddenly. Actually, when I was in the office, I got the news, and I just wanted to be able to create more good in the world. I kind of just had one of these kind of real moments where I just thought, what's it all about? I'd had two amazing boys, amazing husband. What could I do with my career to really make a difference? And that's where it all started, this kind of tech for good passion. And that's when I launched Kids Laptops, children, to really see the educational benefit. And back then it was very much, digital is bad, gaming is bad, take children off technology. Whereas what I was desperate to prove was the academic benefits of using technology. And so I invited myself along after launching the range. I invited myself along to BET, which most of you will know is the education show for technology for education. Sorry, I should say. I'm dyslexic, so apologies if my words arrive in the wrong order. I try and correct it. But yeah, I was fascinated, and I also wanted to make sure that access to technology for young people was equitable, because I'd noticed that the more well-off families were able to purchase the devices, lower income families were not. So I wanted to go and fix that, and that's when I went to government.
Excellent. Is that the start of the Consumer Digital Index, or was that kind of further on?
Oh no, that was a little bit further on. So if you just don't mind, I've got a dog clawing the door to get in.
Okay. Yeah.
Very small, but he's literally here.
We like dogs.
We have had animals
Dogs are
on the
always
show
welcome.
before. Yes,
I will show
absolutely.
you him. He's
Yeah.
very quiet. He's very good. He wants to listen. He wants to find out more about digital, I think.
Good.
So yeah, so I was able to. I basically went to my first meeting. It was a government task force led by Jim Knight, who's Sir Jim Knight now, Lord Jim Knight, I should say. And it was all about kind of how do you get access into the hands of low income families. And I presented a market model there. I didn't understand why the choices were either local authority or charity, and both great organizations, but not set up to handle hardware, which is what, of course, I was used to, having bought and franchised the range within a PC World for parents and young people. And so I pitched an idea where I was like, why can't all families go and branch and decide on what piece of hardware they have and what educational solution, just like anybody else can, rather than feel like it's the equivalent of kind of NHS blue glasses. I hate labels. So I just wanted people to be able to go into branch, pick up the device. And so Barclaycard were amazing. They worked with me to be able to put the grant onto a card in the team. I should say it wasn't just me, it was an amazing team back at Bector. And we'd led a very successful and I pitched this model, and Bector chose it as the model and wanted me to go and help them design what that pilot looked like, so that we could then take it to a proof of concept to pilot to then roll out. And all three of those things were successful, I'm pleased to say. So so that's kind of how I got involved with government. And at the end of that, David Cameron had come in. He was closing down some of the quangos, as you maybe remember, and the national rollout was happening. And I'd become aware of Baroness Martha Lane Fox, as Martha Lane Fox, back then digital champion, had started a new movement around digital inclusion. And I was referred to go and meet her. And I was so scared, honestly. So all I'd seen about Martha was her videos on YouTube and stuff. And I was like, this amazing .com superstar. What would she be wanting to talk to little old me about? But we had a great conversation. And then a couple of months later, I joined her as her ops director first, and then got promoted to MD and CEO of the campaign she ran. So we basically did that for a couple of years, called Race Online 2012, where we were able to meet loads of different partners, amazing, and really raise the awareness levels of digital exclusion in national press. I mean, I was looking at our website, still up, by the way, Race Online 2012, the website's still up, and we had a copy of all of the press articles and all the awareness raising that we did, and it was super. We had a lot of interest and really kind of shone a light on the issue without necessarily fixing it. And Capgemini were so gracious and agreed to do a free consultation for us then, to say, because we were desperate to say, okay, Race Online 2012 has come to an end. We've done great. The BBC got behind a campaign called Give an Hour. We had 1,200 partners, including something like 70% of the top FTSE. So, we had done a great job, but what could we do more? So, the numbers were still high, people offline. And the recommendation from that evaluation was that we should focus more on 4 or 5 different key FTSE partners, or not necessarily FTSE, but key enablers to this, where they've got, high influence and high impact, such as the post office, for example. And that's when we went off and recruited members. So Martha got most of them with a magic stardust, as she has. And I actually got Lloyds Banking Group, because I was really keen that a bank with the assets that Lloyds have, and I'm not just talking funding, which actually wasn't the thing that we leveraged to start with, data, people, places, that's all the things that the sector needed. No clue, for example, about the digital capability of SMEs, for example, for digital exclusion. So that's one of the first things I did when I joined. And I wrote their strategy, and that's how I wrote the strategy for the consumer index, digital champions, and leveraging partners with the academy, which I wrote the business case for and managed to launch it in Manchester. But also while recruiting Gemma Waters, who was amazing as a talent, and she went on to then lead those programs. But had the opportunity to work with the most amazing leaders: Rachel Van, Claire Allington, Nahid Saif. I think there was something like, by the time I left Lloyds, I think I was accountable for about 80 or 90 people across the group transformation division, and 25,000 digital champions across the group, which the branches were
amazing.
The branch teams were awesome. They really got me. And we had the largest volunteer digital workforce for any corporate in Europe, as far as we know. So, yeah.
Excellent. I tend to be a bit cynical about banks' involvement in digital, inclusion, seeing it just as a kind of a means to get people, to be bank customers. But I think from what you're saying, there was more, heartfelt desire to get people online, in a positive way.
Unbelievable support, and there was a program of work all around looking at how to encourage more customers to use the banking channels, which I'm a massive advocate for. You know, people that use the banking channel are more they're happier, they feel more in control, they access their funding, they don't go as overdrawn, they suffer less fees. You know, there's a whole host of things. But actually, the bank were really good at just allowing me and my team to focus on what was right to do. And the sector said they needed more representative data. So we produced the largest ever digital capability measure, which is the index. And, you know, it took me about 18 months to get government to convince to use it, because they themselves, a bit like yourself, was a bit suspicious. Where does this bank data come from?
Yeah.
Honestly, the bank, and because all an organization is people underneath. And if you go and win the hearts and minds, and the Good Things Foundation were amazing. They enabled us to get access to people whose lives have been transformed through digital inclusion. And under the direction of Nick Williams, who was my boss, who reported into Miguel, they were fabulous at allowing us to kind of go into, you know, and helping me negotiate time with all of the big divisional leads to take people whose lives have been transformed and share those stories with colleagues. And, you know, winning the hearts was the major win. And then the minds came when we were able to get the commitment in the Helping Britain Prosper plan. Because for those of you that are listening that have had roles similar to my own, where you're trying to create inclusive practice and responsible practice from within a large corporate, the minute you get that board support, that it's like Moses arrived and the waves part and things just happen, you know. And Sarah Weller, CBE, who's my very good friend and co-founder of ActionAble, who I met while I was at Lloyd's and was my sponsor when I was at Lloyd's, who's the responsible business director on the main board. She was just so supportive of Nick, myself, and Miguel, and what work we needed to achieve, and the team. And that kind of top up and bottom up movement and pincer movement, if you like, within the biggest bank in the UK was a great case study of, you know, how we should do it, because we enabled, you know, support from the top, which then goes into everybody's scorecard, you know, from the, you know, the big bosses and the big, and these are people who've got bank to run, you know, and they, and I got some great advice once, and to say, don't try and change the whole direction of the bank, but just change it slightly to the agenda that you want, and the impact will follow. And my goodness, it did. And it does, I should say. Incredible things today. I mean, the academy, Gemma was telling me, has trained 1 million people now for free. So, you know, it's just fabulous. But
that's great. And still needed, you know, still needed so much, with the millions of people still online or not, you know, offline, sorry. And great to see. And I think possibly other banks followed, you know, kind of in your footsteps.
Well, it should. It's interesting to note what was happening at Barclays at the same time, because there was a point when the campaign kicked off, which was in my first year of joining Lloyd's. I think it was 2012. They'd gone to TV, which initially is where I thought that Lloyd's could or should get to from a campaigning point of view. But actually, we did we earned the hard yarns, if you like, because we wanted to fill the gap and not replicate. So we wanted to make sure that we were answering the needs of the sector, which was basically, can you give us volunteer champions? You know, so the Libraries Network was partnered with the Halifax branches. Can you give us data, which created the index? Can you give us extra capacity, which was the Digital Academy? Can you demonstrate leadership, you know, by making sure that all of your websites are accessible? So that's why we partnered with AbilityNet. You know, by answering people, the sector's challenges, I think that's how we won the trust and the support. Because when you're doing something, you know, what's really important is that you don't do this in isolation as a big organization. You know, you've got colleagues that are in the heart of the communities, you've got partners and clients. You know, something like Lloyd's Bank, something like, was it 45% of the top FTSE? So, you know, like a huge ecosystem. And without taking a systems-based approach to this, you just can't create the impact or legacy that you would want to. So yeah, and the Barclays team are fabulous, and you know, it was much needed, that campaign. But I don't think you needed two campaigns running at the same time. You know, what would be the point? It would look uber competitive on an issue really where we're just trying to encourage people to use the internet. So I think it worked well with them creating a halo effect for our own
Hmm.
customers as well, because obviously if you're a Lloyd's customer, you would see the Barclays TV things, and
Hmm.
by them focusing on the B2C aspect, it really created a bit of a halo effect on everybody.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I know the team there and they're great as well. But yeah, there was a point when I started at Lloyd's, I was like, hang on a minute, I'm really, because when you first start, you're really knocking on doors. And yet this major competitor on TV. So at one point I was like, hang on, like, have I joined the wrong bank? But I'm so glad I stuck with it and the bank stuck with me, because we were able to create so much impact.
Yeah, I mean the index that you referred to several times, it is such a wonderful tool to have. I've worked in community where you need that kind of information at hand, and it's just been brilliant. I've been to some of the launches every year, and the kind of anticipation of what the
Yes,
index will tell us
yes,
this year has
yes,
just been invaluable, especially the regional breakdowns. I found that
yes.
really good. Are you still involved in any way with that?
No, I still speak to the team on a regular basis. It's
Mm,
moved departments now, so less so. It's
mm,
now in its 11th year, I think.
mm,
So yeah, but I mean, I still use the data. I still look at the data from it. Sarah and I eagerly anticipate the release of it.
mm.
And it's grown arms and legs.
Yeah.
It's just so wonderful. And
Yeah.
when we started doing it, I think we did our first proof of concept in 2013 with it. We did the SME one in 2014, and we got all the data and everything ready in 2013 and 14. And yeah, and it's just gone on from strength to strength. I'm so pleased with it. But the
Mm,
annual nature of it is important, because you want to be able to create a benchmark and
yeah.
see you've made progress. And we
Mm,
were super keen on that. But
mm,
it took a big leap of faith for the bank to, because at the end of the day, a lot of the data comes from their own customers.
mm,
And
Mm.
what was really interesting in the early days was the difference between the actual behavior of customers online that you could see through the transactional 1 million records, and what they would report via survey.
yes.
So to government, it is a super helpful report, because it's the only report to this day that reports on behavioral data
Mm,
as well as survey, and we know
mm,
that there's lots of survey bias.
yeah.
So we were able to say, and I don't know if this is still the case, but for example, women would be underestimating their skills on survey, but in actual fact, what we could see transactionally from their data was that they were very much more confident than they gave out. So it's insights like that that you just wouldn't get from anywhere else.
Invaluable. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. So you're also involved in AbilityNet and Digital Property Lines. Which of those came first?
Oh, so well, AbilityNet has always been in my heart ever since Lloyd's, because we worked really closely with them, with Rachel Van, who
Mm,
those of you that don't know her, she's an amazing force of nature with regards to accessibility, and she was the one that led the program of work within our team across the bank, working with some amazing the teams in the DevOps teams, right way through the way to design, and people like Joe Brown, for example, and just had created an enormous amount of impact. And we were the first footsie to make sure that all of our websites were accessible. I remember the meeting really well, where the CEO of AbilityNet came in to talk to my boss back then, Nick Williams, and said, look, Nick was like, tell me the damage. And he said, look, you've got some work to do to make them accessible to everyone. And we got so much support. Nick was fully behind it, and that enabled us to give Rachel the support to lead this huge program of work with AbilityNet, who, for those of you that don't know them, they're a 30-year-old charity. They're awesome. They're global. And yeah, go check them out. But they came first. And
mm.
then when I left Lloyd's, after I think it was like 8 or 9 years, I then went to I was already a trustee at an organization called the Learning Foundation.
Oh yeah, with Paul
Um,
Finnis. Yeah.
yeah, I've
Mm,
actually met all those years ago when I was setting up, when I was working, when I did that pitch for Bector that I told you about.
mm,
They were the charity that government were thinking about going to support. And I suppose I'd always felt a little bit guilty that those funds had not gone to the charitable sector, but actually had been administered as a program through Bector to the retail sector. And so I wanted, and it was the right thing to do nonetheless, but I wanted to give back. So I went to work as a trustee. And they were very much in the space of, look, there's so much that needs to be done. There's duplication in the sector. There's the same people trying to get through to government, trying to influence each other. It's quite complex. Why don't we set up an alliance? So I worked with Paul on the strategy when there was a small team of us, including Tristan Wilkinson and others, to really kind of like understand what was needed. And then as a group of people who were just so passionate about it, we set up the alliance. And at first it was a subset of the charity, but it then grew arms and lengths, and within just a few months we became the source for the BBC to get the data from, etc. 80 ambassadors, 22 community partners where I was the chair of the board from, and then and then I think that my policies and practice don't necessarily weren't with where the charity was heading in terms of what it believed it should be doing, like joining forces with the campaign to stop the BBC moving to digital transition, etc. I absolutely firmly disagree with that. And there's some other things, but I think that the charity has done an amazing job at raising the awareness, and got an amazing partnership with Currys. And we created something which is basically where people buy hardware, or back joining the loop when I wrote the proposal. It's kind of, how do you then give back? And Currys have got this fabulous scheme where you can buy a computer, and at the end when you purchase, you can donate your funds to that charity. So it's been able to help that charity be able to do some amazing things, such as the Tech for Prison Leavers project, which I was behind the concept of after watching a documentary about prison leavers and the opportunities that they have or don't have, as the case may be, and how could technology help that. And Intel were fabulous, and Capgemini, in getting behind that. And there's a white paper for anybody interested in the outcomes of that Elizabeth and the team have pulled together, which is fabulous. So yeah, I think it's so that was the DPA. And I suppose my history is known for starting things, like being
Sounds like it.
right of the strategy. Some people have called me before, and I had to look it up what it meant. Somebody first called it me because I was like, oh, I'm not sure if that's a nice thing. Rainmaker.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
so,
That I can see that. Yeah, the Capgemini, actually, you mentioned them a couple of times. They've done some work with Digital Unite as well, on their digital champion program. So they obviously,
yes,
you inspire them probably to want to stay involved in this kind of work, because
Well,
it's so rewarding.
It's so funny. So Sally, who leads on all of that, kept
Uh-huh.
yeah, she's amazing. I must have said amazing about 10 times. Different words. She's incredible, and she was working with the CEO of Capgemini when they did the evaluation at Race Online 2012. And I spent a fair bit of time, therefore, with Sally talking about digital inclusion, and off the back of that, she was inspired to then want to create a whole function within Capgemini, which she's now done. And to her testament, it's gone really well.
Yeah, I often quote them when I'm talking to other corporates about what could be done. If Capgemini can do it, then others can do it as well. And I keep asking people about it, so keep the
it's
flag
really
flying there. Yeah.
And Emma with the Digital Unite proposition is, she's really understood and twisted and turned her program around the needs of the client, which is Capgemini, to be able to make sure it works. It's not kind of going to a corporate with a vanilla solution and expecting them just to adopt it. This is about proper partnership, and those two have got an amazing partnership. So
absolutely, yeah. So does that bring us up to the foundation of ImpactMatch? How recent was that?
So there's a little bit before that, if you
okay, yeah, please.
I'm trying to think what happened then. Oh yeah, so I went to work. I was asked to go and support the United Nations on writing the target best practice for setting targets for financial inclusion. So that was fabulous because I got a first. And if anybody wants to volunteer for the United Nations, I'd strongly recommend it. I got access and visibility with so many different banks. So I was able to get visibility of all the different ways, from developing nation financial institutions all the way into the States and all those amazing organizations, trying to work out how to get behind the financial and well-being and inclusion. And I went to work with the Money and Pension Service for a short while as well, talking to them about how you set up a financial well-being movement, much the same as we had done for digital inclusion.
Because they're very closely allied, aren't they? Financial and digital inclusion. Yeah, yeah. I've seen programs before.
They're codependent. They are codependent on them for a number of reasons. And once you have those digital skills, you are much more likely to be better off financially. The intersection is quite interesting because the older you get better with money, and you learn the life lessons. But with digital, it's obviously the opposite. So we used to call it the X factor. So that point between, and I think I'm of the generation where we're supposed to know both, like digital and financial well-being. So it should otherwise be an interesting turn of events, because at the juncture of our generation is kind of, well, my generation is where those two skills should be at play now.
Can we talk a little bit more about AbilityNet as well? For complete transparency, Sweyn is actually a volunteer with AbilityNet. And we have had them on the show before, and we think very highly of them. What's your involvement now, and how are you influencing things?
Oh, so I was asked if I wanted to apply to be a trustee. So I did that last year, got through a rigorous interview process with the chair and Amy, who, as you all know, is the most incredible CEO. And I've known all of the predecessor CEOs as well. Each one of them had done such an amazing job. And yeah, so I'm a trustee now on their board. I only started at the back end of last year. So yeah, I've just been amazed with them. They are, in fact, the last board meeting I went to, I started off a round of applause because their leadership team and their CEO just done such a great job, in terms of improvements, in terms of culture, in terms of impact, on all metrics. Just a fabulous organization, and they've got some amazing clients and are having really global success with a lot of their programs. So yeah, just it's a real pleasure to be on their board. And we're going to do some really exciting stuff this year, which is a little bit of a secret right now, but I'm looking forward to it. I've got a planning meeting about it this week. So
Great.
And yeah, watch this space. I don't know if you've heard of the TechShare Pro conference that they do, but I've never been anything ever like it before. Definitely recommend anybody going. And for me, disability is key, and that intersectionality of digital exclusion, financial exclusion, and disability is really important.
Yeah. Sweyn, as a volunteer, how are you finding AbilityNet so far?
Well, you say I am a volunteer. I am becoming a volunteer. I managed to mess up my PPG check thing, so that's currently still pending. But no, it's been good. I've been very impressed by the onboarding process and the induction and all that sort of stuff. There's quite a few volunteers in the north of Scotland and in the islands, so I am looking forward to joining them. Yes.
And yeah, are you working on the BT project with them, or do you
Not yet.
Okay.
I guess that may be open to me when I finally manage to get myself registered properly.
Well, honestly, I was talking to one of their volunteers, one of the team that trains people, and it was on the BT program, which is huge. And for anybody that doesn't know about it, go check out the BT and AbilityNet program. It's creating lots of social impact right across the UK. I was talking to one of the people who just recently trained somebody on that program, and they were telling me a story, and I'm so envious of your journey now, because you're going to be doing this live, getting people online, and there's no better feeling. They were telling me about this lady who was struggling to put her heating on, not because she didn't have heating, but she couldn't afford to put the heating on. And she was explaining this to her trainer, that she couldn't afford the funds. And she happened to mention, though, that she had not been checking her bank account for the last few years. And I think the person that we're talking about suffered from Alzheimer's as well. So anyway, she was able to get support through this volunteer to access how much funds she had to pay for her heating, and found out she had £100,000 in her bank account.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
So,
That's a nice ending to a story.
no longer
Yeah.
going to. Yeah, what a story! I'd love that story. But she is no longer cold. She's
Yeah.
suffering from cold and
Oh,
also.
that's so lovely.
So,
Mm.
and that's just one example of how you can unlock impact by helping somebody to get them online. I mean, I remember the early days of me working at Lloyd's, supporting Get Online Week with Helen and Emma and the team, and walking into a pub in Sheffield, and there was 4 chaps all sat around with a pint and doing various things. One of them was looking at the post in terms of the races for that day. Somebody was looking forward to talking to me about how they were going to go fishing later on that day. Somebody was looking at the odds for a football game, I think it was. And anyway, I can't remember the fourth person, but I went in and they were like, "Oh, I'm not interested in getting online. I am not interested in getting online. Go
Yeah.
away." And I was like, "No, let's have this chat." So it turns out the guy that was looking at the odds was actually online and he didn't realize phone. The guy that was going fishing later that afternoon had no idea that he'd be able to predict what fish, whether it was a good fishing that afternoon by going onto the online forum, which I showed him. And then the other chap who was looking at the races didn't know that you could do that online and get up to date information because the odds had already changed from when he picked up his paper from the local shop. Like, and I'm not just talking about getting a Nobel Peace Prize from being able to online, but just living your life.
Yeah.
Being able to access and you can only do that. And a little tip for you, I'm sure, Sweyn, when you go in, is just start the conversation with whatever their interest is.
Absolutely. No, that's
So,
a long-standing principle, that one.
Yeah.
A long-standing principle that
Online.
you don't say, "What do you want to do when you finally get online?" You say, "What are you interested in? What things do you like to do?" Yes, absolutely.
Exactly.
Leigh, I don't know if you ever met our program founder, John Popham.
I did.
Okay. Good.
I'm so sorry about that loss. Yeah. It's so great that you're carrying on his legacy with this program.
We're very pleased to do it, and it was really fun when he started. He just kind of asked, "Was anybody interested?" And we both stepped up, and it was great. And we miss him because we think he would have lots to say about what's happening in the digital world and the world generally. So yeah, we're very proud to carry on his legacy. How can you remember how you met him?
I think it was at a Get Online event. I think it's a Get Online event, and then obviously we stayed in touch with the indexes and what have you.
Yeah.
Big fan of and gave me some really good feedback as well. Like you could always get a straight answer from him.
Absolutely.
As it is, which I so appreciate because the world is just too busy to do anything else, isn't it? And we'll just slow things down if we're not direct. And we have you heard about the Connection Project and what's going on there?
I haven't. I don't think so.
Oh, you should definitely check it out. So, I was sharing with you earlier about Gemma Waters, who was at Lloyd's, and I actually recruited her, one of my best recruits, I have to say. And she came in initially to run the index. I mean, she transformed it. But anyway, she's amazing. She's been at the bank now for 10 years, and she's on secondment to help Natalie, who is running as chair the cash access, which is about how do you access multiple banks all in the location of somewhere that's close to people that are vulnerable. So, rather than the running costs of having 10 different banks in the high street, is how do you consolidate that? It's a phenomenal program of work. I think they've got 200 branches now across the UK, led by a guy called Gareth Oakley, who again was from Lloyd's. But I should say that they've now set up something called the Connection Project, and it's got great backing from all the different sectors, and that is a short-term project to understand how to fix the digital exclusion. And it had a kickoff event last week, and was amazing. Like I think they were oversubscribed, so not everybody could get to go. I think there was seating room, standing room only for about 200-300 different organizations. And I'm never been excited as to see what a potential fix could be, as hearing from some of the speakers at that event is I'm very excited by it. Likewise, in Scotland, you'll know about the Digital Inclusion Alliance.
Yes.
About their work. So I've recently
when it starts.
Sorry?
When it starts.
Yes.
It's very much in a setup
Yes,
Still,
Mm.
yes,
years
Yeah,
later, still very much in a setup mode so far. But
yeah.
we'll hope that all those issues to do with how it was founded and which partners felt they were able to be involved and which weren't can all be smoothed over and make sure it has the impact it should have.
Yes, well, and exactly. I've been asked to help it for just a short period of time to give them some advice on how to stand it up. So I'm excited about that. And we had our
Yeah,
first,
that'd be really good. I keep
Mm.
I keep Google searching them, and all I can still find is we're working on setting this up. So
yes,
I think the announcements are somewhat ahead of the actual impact. Let's just put it that way.
yes, yeah. Well, I think there's a lot of reasons for that that I should talk to you about
Mm.
offline. There's a lot of
Yes, I'm aware of some of them, but
yeah.
Mm.
yes.
But yeah, I think that I'm equally as excited about. The reason I'm excited about that is because of the nature and the systems-based approach that they want to take with it, which isn't, just sticking plasters on stuff,
Mm.
or just dishing out hardware and not understanding impact and all the other things that have happened, that I've been guilty of as well over many years, and really taking a systems-based approach to it. So I think they're doing it slow but right, I would say, is my take on it. But
Good.
I went
We've had colleagues on from the More Collective about concerned about digital inclusion in Scotland, and it'll be great if something can move on that. Yeah.
yeah, for sure.
Mm.
Well, I'm responsible for explaining what's going on with it, so I'm working on that, as you can
Great.
imagine.
Great.
And we've got an agency involved in that as well, pro bono, to be able to
Is there
help.
a Scottish agency involved in that?
Well, we're sending out an invitation to tender, I think, next week to all
All
agencies.
right, so it's still at that
Yeah.
stage.
So
Okay, yeah,
everybody's got an opportunity to do it.
yeah.
It will be under pro bono though, because there's not a lot of funds, and quite rightly, if we can get pro bono, then we should take it, because it's taxpayers' funds at the end of the day. Um, so we'll see where we get to with it, but there's going to be lots of different opportunities to work on it. So from branding to comms to creative, as you know, engagement rather than just pure marketing is such an
Mm.
important part of it.
Sure, yeah.
Absolutely. So, Lee, do you want to, we've got a few minutes left on the show. Do you want to tell us a bit about Impact Match and what you're hoping to, what you have achieved and what you're hoping to achieve more with that?
Yeah, well, it's a really good question. So I set up ImpactMatch about 2 years ago. Well, the concept came about 2 years ago. When I was thinking, should I continue? Because I'm 54, 55 this year. So I've got another 10, 15 years in me, I reckon. And I wanted to understand, I'm always thinking, like, how can I create more impact? And I've done that by working for some amazing leaders, Nick Williams, Sarah Lloyds, Baroness Martha Lane Fox, um, Neil McLean at Bector, Nick Shacklock at Bector, Keith Jones but I've always been somebody's number two, or number three, or number four, or number five, or number 10, or number 20, depending on the size of the company. And I wanted to see, just prove it to myself, either whether I could do this or I couldn't do this, is be able to kind of stand something up by myself. And that's the concept behind Impact Match, really, is how do you create impact at scale by linking the right people at the right time to the right plans, to the right strategies to create systemic impact. And we've got 4 key services. We've got one, which is how do you write the right strategies. The second one is then how do you find the right people to deliver them. So a good example is we have just recently wrote we managed the audit for digital exclusion strategy for BT. We then went and hired the head of digital inclusion, who's only just started, Faye, who started last week. And then the third thing we do is how do you connect all those docs through connected leadership? How do you use platforms such as LinkedIn to be able to then generate as much impact as possible by making all those dots and creating the right campaigns and communications using AI tools, of course, but just being really kind of thoughtful and strategic about how you make those connections. So, and then the final thing we do is we've got a community of about 4,500 people now that we run free masterclasses for. I'm a massive fan, as you can imagine, of paying it forward. So we've ran numerous masterclasses now. I think we've trained about 2,700 people for free on those skills to be able to create more impact themselves. And we've got partnerships with Connected Britain and all sorts of different amazing partners to be able to do much more of that.
Great.
And that impact maker community is so important to us. And the first case study that we wanted to create was to deal with something really knotty in the inclusion space. And by talking to Sarah Weller, we came up with the concept of ActionAble, which was how do you accelerate impact for disability? And some of the frustrations for myself of working in big corporates, you need the support of your board, you need the support of your organization to be able to get behind that. But at the same time, people that work in these big corporates, they've got so many stakeholders. They've got internal stakeholders, they've got the external stakeholders, they've got partners that are trying to approach them all the time. For example, in the prison sector, there's more prison charities than prisons. Like they will be approaching these responsible business leads all the time. So how do you cope with all of that and be inspired and know how to create the most amount of impact? So we created this one day where we brought together 45% of the top FTSE with 62 amazing inspirational speakers, with 32 exhibitors of services for disability inclusion, everything from stair lift to kind of accessibility on websites to organizations as brilliant as EY sharing their lived experience of how you support people through disability when they find out during mid-career that they have become disabled. So we did that, and that was phenomenal, and we created so much impact so that and I was so surprised with it even myself that I decided to write the impact report for it, which we then published at the House of Lords earlier last year, which led on to then a round table with all the FTSE C-suite for disability for the financial sector, and we've written the business case for disability, which we're about to publish in February, at the end of February.
Wow.
So that's one of our case studies, and 80% increase in confidence. 500 organisations started to work on their action plans. Over 300 new organisations joined the agenda, which was a request from the charities in the sector, to have new voices. So it just shows you from one day you can create so much. And it'll be on my tombstone to kind of be the death of the talk shop, because there's no you need action.
Yeah, absolutely.
Indeed.
Absolutely. Can I ask, Leigh, before we go, about your thoughts on the LinkedIn algorithm? Have you seen a difference in it? What's your take on it?
Well, the first thing I should say is, if for those of you that are listening, if you don't already, follow Em Wilson, who's a digital director within my team. She's a top 1% LinkedIn voice, and she knows this stuff inside out. She analyzes the algorithm, which changes every 6 months, and then we do a masterclass on it, which is free to look at, and it's on our website, with a whole host of other masterclasses. We've got another one going on this Thursday. Everybody's welcome to join. The algorithm is very interesting, and Em has written a whole post on this, which actually other more prolific bloggers have picked up and blogged about themselves. So I'm not going to steal her thunder, but there is some very interesting take on the algorithm and what it's doing. I mean, like most things in life, most things are designed for men, and middle-class white men, I should say that. And so just unearthing those stories, I think, is so key. But don't let it put you off using it as a platform. There's a billion people now on LinkedIn. It's the place to connect. I spend half my life on it, connecting people in the background, making sure that all the time I can see somebody that should be speaking to somebody to make their role.
Same.
Such an amazing platform. And if you need or want extra skills on it, then I definitely suggest listening into that masterclass. It only takes an hour, and Em will talk you through step by step how to get the most out of it.
Yeah, I've attended one or two of your classes, and they've been excellent. And the people that you draw in are it's great to get all that community together, so well done
thank
for
you.
doing that. Yeah.
It's only a year where we've got 4,000 people now. The best thing about them is, I think, Pauline, is they're all good people. Like, when we bring them together as well for face-to-face events, the number one thing they say to me is they like each other.
Yeah.
And they always get great value out of just talking to one another. They're just good people who want to do good in the world, and they come from a variety of functions. I'm a massive believer that impact roles should not sit just in CSR, that should sit all over the company, and that anybody can create impact. I mean, I'm speaking to 38 partners this week of an organization that are considering their next phase of life. And my challenge to them is they've got the biggest brains in the UK. Like, I want to match them to things that are going to create massive impact. And yes, it's great to be, on your local scouts, huts kind of volunteering community. And I definitely advocate for that. But I more advocate for then going to national or global things where some of the biggest brains can really adapt the way that they see things, help people see things in a different world, and just change the way that business is done.
Absolutely. Leigh, thank you so much for joining us today. If people want to get in touch with you after the show, what's the best way? We will put your LinkedIn profile on our show notes. Is there another way?
Also Ems.
Yes, good.
Oh yeah,
good.
definitely put Emma on there. She'll love that, and she's a great talker. So contact her on LinkedIn. Say that you heard it here. But no, I would either go to our website and become an impact maker. So join the community at ImpactMatch.global. Definitely do that. Reach out to me on LinkedIn. Or you can even book a meeting with me direct on our website as well, I think, for 15 minutes. So yeah,
Great.
any
Great.
one
All
of those,
those,
any one of
all
those.
of those details are in the show notes. So
Oh,
Great.
thank you so much, and thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for joining us. You're
thank you indeed.
amazing,
Yes.
and
When
we
you
wish you
first
every success.
Oh, when you first asked me to talk for this amount of time, I was like, what will I talk about? But you probably feel quite tired from listening to me. So I apologize to all of the viewers as well. It's been great to just share some of my lessons, I suppose, in my life, and just have confidence, everyone. If you know that you want to make a change in your life or have more impact, just do it. You only live once, and the worst thing
Yeah.
that anybody can say is no. Have 20
Yeah.
seconds of bravery and change the world.
Absolutely. Thanks again, Leigh. Thanks, everybody. Have a good week. See you next week. Bye-bye now.
Bye, everyone. Bye.
Bye.